群青の夜の波間に船を一つ浮かべてあなたに会いたい触れたい強い想いよ流れてゆく溢れる涙のような物語扉を今叩くのたった一つの約束守れないでいるでしょ会いたい Where is he? Where is he? どないの見慣れてゆくあなたの顔さえ裸のままで心で抱きしめたいの今すぐ会いたい Where is he? 連れ去らってよ流れてゆく溢れる涙のような物語扉を今叩くの
All right. So this is a Tai Chi, Qigong, Taoist, mind-body, meditative mindfulness practice. And so over 40 years of practicing and teaching mind-body practices, I've incorporated a lot of things. I've tried, all the big 5 mind-body practices, and just included all the things that I found that worked very effectively. And the science on mind-body practice is massive. So if you start incorporating a mind-body practice like the one that we're going to do here today, which is going to be about an hour long, if you do it every day, it's going to change your life. You're going to start seeing massive impact. The science and all this stuff. I have a book. It's called the new 2nd edition, The Gospel of Science. Mind-blowing new science on ancient truths to heal our stress lives and planet. And that title doesn't overstate this. If you look at the science, it'll blow your mind, and it'll get you to start practicing this stuff on a daily basis. And once you start practicing it on a daily basis, you'll see the things that the science says that it'll do starting to unfold in your life, and you'll be really, really excited about the benefits you get from it. And so anyway, we're going to start with a sitting Qigong or Neigong energy meditation, and to bring our awareness back from the rat race and back into our body and really feeling the sensations of the body. Science is calling this heart-centered consciousness. Instead of thinking, we'll be moving more into a feeling and sensory mode. And that's very healing. And so we'll go through this guided visualization, which will take about 20 minutes, and then we'll go through a moving Qigong meditation. And you'll try to do that mostly with your eyes closed, because it's new to you. You're going to have to peek once in a while. But don't worry about it. You'll be able to do most of it with your eyes closed, and I'll get more into that when we get to it. And then we'll do a Tai Chi short form. So this is about 7 movements. It's a real short Tai Chi form. It doesn't take very long to learn, and you'll get to where, if you practice this stuff, you'll get to where you can do it without the video, and you'll be able to do it anytime, anywhere, no matter where you are, whatever situation you're stuck in. You'll be able to go to this safe place, breathe, get out of your head, and get a whole new perspective of it. And so let's get going now. One of the things that is beneficial to get the most out of this, to kind of set the mood for this Neigong or meditation mindfulness experience, is some basic physics. And that is that we're made of energy. Actually, everything in the universe is made of nothing but energy, mostly potential space or potential energy, empty space. And that's what science knows today. What's amazing is, how did the ancient Indian and Chinese mind-body researchers, because they did. That's what boggles mind. It was like they were scientists studying the universe from within their own consciousness, and they came to the same conclusions that external scientists have come to today, quantum physicists, that the universe is made of energy. And so what they realized, what these ancient Indian and Chinese researchers realized, was that this energy field that we are, which is part of an ocean of energy, everything's connected, our personal energy field, it can get tight and squeezed from the normal stresses that we pick up in our lives. And things are changing so fast right now, and the media is so fear-based that everything seems way more stressful and dangerous than it really is. And I'll get into some of the facts and data on that later, because to understand really how safe and beautiful the world is such a healing thing. And so you really need to stay in tune for that after the meditation. But what they realized is that the stresses that we pick up, they cause us to be squeezed and tightened, and that diminishes our DNA expression. So all of our health, immunity, mental, emotional, all of our health aspects become diminished from that squeezing of the DNA. The DNA actually coils more tightly when we stress, or our field squeezes. But what they also found is that through practicing these stress management relaxation modalities that came out of mostly India and China, although it's planet-wide, really, if you start to look into older cultures. But the Chinese and Indians, boy, they really brought it to a high science. And what they realized is that through a combination of visualization and breathing techniques, that we could allow this energy field or energy being that we are to relax open. And then now science can actually see the DNA uncoils in these relaxed states, and that causes a healthful DNA expression, so much stronger immunity. Or the Tai Chi studies show that Tai Chi boosted the T cell count of the Tai Chi group 50% over the control group. That's massive. if there was any drug that could boost your T cell count by 50%, with no negative side effects whatsoever, because all the side effects of Tai Chi and mind body are positive, you'd be seeing it on the news every night. You'd be seeing it 24 hours a day on commercials, on TV. Why don't you hear about this stuff? If it's so powerful, why don't you hear about it? It's because nothing appears on the corporate media unless it makes somebody billions of dollars. If it doesn't make somebody billions of dollars, it's not. You're not going to see it. So don't go there to find your health solutions. Go do what the media tells you not to do, which is do your own research. That's what I did for 40 years. I wrote a book called New Second Edition, The Science that I told. So anyway, and I have it meticulously, all the sciences meticulously endnoted, cited, because I knew people wouldn't believe if when I told them how profoundly mind-body practices could help them. And when I'm talking about mind-body, I'm talking about yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, Qigong,
and mindfulness.
These things have a mountain of science. And so anyway, I just don't want you to underestimate this. Now, how do you get the most out of this? Well, first of all, is realizing that we're energy. That's what we're made of. And so we can allow this energy field to relax open. I went to a Noetic Sciences conference in Boulder, Colorado many years ago. They study the power of human consciousness. And there was a physicist that was speaking that also she taught meditation. Physics was her career. And so she was explaining to us that, when we do these meditative practices, a lot of times we feel more open, more light. And we tell ourselves that that's a hypnotic delusion that we deluded ourselves into believing because of the meditation. But she said, as a physicist, I can tell you that is when you're actually feeling the most real. She said that if we could somehow get rid of all the empty space or the potential energy field that we're made of and just smush all the subatomic particles together, the whole of humanity would only add up to about the size of a grape. The whole human race. So that's how much space is in us. So a lot of people say, well, if I'm just empty space, how come I can't put my arm through my arm? Well, okay, in physics, theoretically, if you did it enough times, everything would align and you'd be able to do that. But why can't we do that most of the time? It's because this is an energy field. This is an energy field. This is an energy field. Everything is. The atoms of my hand and my fist, they don't touch each other when I do this. What they touch is a force field. They touch an energy field. Nothing in the universe ever touches anything else. It's all energy. And so knowing that how spacious and open we are, it almost makes you feel like the breeze can blow right through. That's the mood that we want for this experience. We will be sharing it because our consciousness is non-local. The science on this is really beautiful. And okay, so now the key to this is you don't want to try too hard. You don't want to try hard to visualize. You don't want to try hard to feel. You just want to let go. And just think of it like going on a carnival ride. You're just going to let go of control and you're just going to go on the ride and it's all safe. Nothing scary that's going to happen or anything. It's all very natural. Kids are natural meditators. I have 3 grandchildren and I have realized that kids are natural. We all were. It just got squeezed out of us by society. And so we're just, Chinese masters often call Qigong a return to childlikeness. Not childishness. It's the opposite of that. It's childlikeness.
Enjoying the pleasures of our existence.
Very healing. Changes the molecular structure of the heart and the brain. Science has shown this. Just by enjoying our existence. They call it gratitude. Consciousness. So it's not gratitude like when I was raised, I thought gratitude was kind of a groveling, oh, thank you, I'm not worthy. No, it's not like that. No, it's enjoying the pleasure of our existence. That's gratitude. Consciousness is very healing. So here we go. So just have fun with this. We'll come out on the other side and you'll feel really, really cool. Okay, so you want to find a comfortable place in your chair. Now, I usually do this with my feet flat on the floor. Just full disclosure, though, I'm doing it with my legs crossed because this chair is just so perfect for legs crossed. But for years, I always trained with my feet flat on the floor, and that's how we were taught to do it, going through training. But I'm so used to it that I can do it this way. So just sitting back, finding that comfortable place in the chair, and we want to be upright but not rigid. We want to have good back support and be upright, not slouching or back or anything. And as the eyes close easily and naturally, just letting ourselves just think and
Begin by letting the eyes close easily and naturally. Noticing how the eyes continue letting go. The tiny optical muscles and the soft tissue. We don't make it happen, we just let it happen. The cheeks and the sinuses softening and opening. The brow, the forehead, the sinuses softening and opening. So we just think the thought and then we just let it happen. That lightness expands by itself. Feeling the tip of the tongue lightly touch the gum line there behind the top two front teeth. And that sensation brings us back from the world. Starts to bring us into that, what science calls heart-centered consciousness, where we're feeling but not thinking. As we feel the cool waves of breath filling us from the abdomen all the way up into the airy fibers of the lungs. And on those sighing exhales, as the shoulders relax down and away from the neck, everything that we are begins to let go of everything that we've held onto. Letting go of the day, the week, any plans that we have later. So that each releasing breath sees us falling deeper and deeper into the center where we are, right here and right now. And as we breathe and let go of ourselves again and again, there's just more and more space for that lightness, that openness. And as we open to that sun directly above the head, just by thinking of that radiant, lighted awareness above the physical fray, we begin to experience the lift. Not a physical lift, but that lift in vibratory rate. That feeling of just lightening up on ourselves and the world all around us, permeating everything that we are. And now the brain-mind opening to it. As the mind sighs, lets go of trying to think or trying not to think, so that we can just drift on whatever lilts through this lighted, knowing awareness that we are. As we breathe and let go again and again. The mind knowing it's safe to just sigh, let go. Down through the sides and the back of the head, the base of the skull begins to let go. And as the old brain and the back of the head sigh, all that panic and fear stuff that we squeeze back there surrenders into the safety of that opening lightness. And the spine and spinal fluid, and all the miles and miles of nerves being soothed and coated by this silken expanse. The sensory awareness lifting and lighting. As we sigh and let go of trying to feel or trying not to feel, so that we can just drift on whatever lilts through this lighted knowing and sensory awareness that we are. Throughout our being and field, as well as on up through our solar plexus. And as we let that nerve bundle in the upper abdomen just sag as it sighs. There's space for that lightness to echo through the abdomen and the pelvic bowl. The organs softening and lightening and opening. on up through the torso, the chest, the heart, the lungs. The lungs, the wings of inspiration begin to open, to lift and lighten. We don't make it happen, we just let it happen. This silken, nurturing radiance, it permeates the entire universe all the time, just waiting for us to breathe and let go and allow space for it. And the science on this is really beautiful. And the bronchial tree, the upper chest lightening up on itself. Nice full breaths, loosening, stretching, yawning, anytime you feel like it. Just letting these be loosening experiences. And the heart, lighting. So that every breath we breathe in breathes in lighted oxygen that's carried with every beat of the heart through the circulatory, liquid, lymph and glandular systems. And with the liquid systems, the emotional awareness, lifting and lighting. As we sigh and let go of our hold on emotional states so that we can just drift on whatever flows through this lighted knowing, sensory, and emotional awareness that we are. Being opened and unfolded by it. And now the field within, throughout, and all around blazes up in a magnetic consuming fire action that begins to magnetically draw and lift the tight and heavy loads up and out, off of us in all directions. As we just breathe and let go again and again, some of the weight of the world begins to lift off and out of us. Layers and layers and layers of it. Our whole field, our whole home can unload. And it includes the center of our heart and the center of our brain, knowing that it is safe to let go. To even lose ourselves in this unloading drift. As the heart and the brain too are unloading. So this is the opposite of effort. We let the consuming light fires do all the deep cleansing work. All we do is just breathe and let go again and again. Layers and layers letting go. Good. Now those magnetic consuming fires blazing up, intensifying 10 times over, deeply drawing whatever it is that we've stirred up or churned up or that we're ready to let go of. As we just sit back and breathe and let, we start to find that we can let go in ways and in places deeper than we ever knew we existed. And that center of the brain, knowing it is safe to let go, to lose ourselves in that unloading drift. Nice, and that unloading can continue on some level, even as we let go of it on a conscious level, and rather now open to the full field assimilation of light, as we're just floating in this ocean of expanding radiance, being lifted and buoyed upon it, opened and lighted. And each releasing breath is free fall into absolute safety and complete acceptance. There is nothing to measure up to here, just breath and light and opening. As we're soothed and nurtured in this, held dearly and lightly. The more we let go, the more light there is. There's silken effortlessness, however we perceive these things. As we're being soothed and nurtured in it. There's no greater sense of surrender than the release of full breaths, sighs, and loosening yawns. Our whole field can sigh. And that center of the brain knowing that it is safe to let go. Till you lose our sense of self, even lose the I and the me, as we just melt into this endless ocean of nurturing light. Opened and unfolded by it. And as we continue floating in this lightness, slipping into a counting meditation, so the tip of the tongue is lightly touching the gum line behind the top two front teeth. And we just let ourselves fill with this full abdominal breath, starts from the lower abdomen all the way up into the airy fibers of the lungs, as we count in our minds 1 through 5. And by the time we get to 5, we're full of breath. And then on that sighing exhale, we continue the count in our heads 6 through 12. And by the time we get to 11, 12, we're running out of breath, and we're just kind of drifting on that lightness for a moment or two. And then we again pick up the 1 through 5 in-breath. So we'll just repeat this 1 through 5 on the in-breath, 6 through 12 on the sighing exhalation, and just letting it be very effortless, letting the breath breathe us and the counting count us. 1 through 5 on the in-breath, 6 through 12 on the exhalations, and just keep repeating that. Very effortless. And the mind may drift and wander, and we don't judge it. It's just the nature of the mind. And if we notice it getting caught up in a linear thought or a problem, solving a problem or a worry or a plan or any of that kind of thing, we just simply come back to the tip of the tongue, 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. But we don't want to hold this too tightly, because sometimes we'll just drift into reveries, meditative reveries, where we drift into alpha state. And we don't quite know where we went, but it can be a very deep meditative experience. And so we don't want to hold this vessel too tightly, but we can always use the vessel to come back from the linear thoughts, from the rat race. So if we catch ourselves in a linear thought, we just simply, and no judgment at all, we don't criticize ourselves. And as we get used to being empathetic and gentle with ourselves in meditation, it changes our brain, and it changes the way that we react. And so we start treating ourselves more kindly and more gently when we're out in our lives. And what we start to find is, as we become more empathetic and compassionate with ourselves, we become so with the world as well. Everything's connected. So again, coming back to the 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. It's okay if the mind wanders. We just come back, just enjoying the sensation of this. 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. Good. And as we start to find the rhythm of this counting and breathing, it's as though we infuse with that lightness on the 1 through 5 in-breath. We don't try, it just happens. And then on the 6 through 12 exhalation, we just become that nebulous, undefined, drifting radiance. And as we play at these things, we become more and more comfortable with that it's okay to not be in control, to just lose ourselves in this counting and drifting breath. 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. And the breaths become like ocean waves that we can just drift and float upon. That center of the brain, knowing that it is safe to let go, to lose ourselves in this drift. Good. And we can continue floating in this silken lightness. But now with the eyes still closed, we'll move into what's called Qigong tapping. So you can just keep your eyes closed. It's very simple. I can tell you how to do it with your eyes closed. We just start tapping our fingertips and thumb tips around our calves and shins and knees. And you just go around and around. And the key to this is let the whole body, the back, the shoulders. The key to this is to let the whole body, the back, the shoulders, just go liquid. And we just let this flow through us, flow through our relaxed arm and out through our relaxed fingers. And then it's like we're in a day spa and somebody else is doing the tapping. And we're just here to sit back and enjoy these soft explosions of sensation rippling through the field that we are. As we just breathe and let go, just let it in. And letting the tapping be kind of erratic instead of rhythmic. The research shows that it's more beneficial when it's erratic, and it's also more enjoyable, having that element of surprise. It's a good habit to be able to surprise ourselves. Good. And then going up and down the thighs, coming at them from all angles. And those energy fingers go right through the thighs and far beyond. So we just let it all in just for the sheer pleasure of it. Nice full breaths. Enjoying how that energy field of the thighs can just sigh and let this in deeper and deeper. Just to enjoy it, not to analyze it or anything. From all angles. And as that energy field of the thighs lets the tapping in, it's breaking up old calcified energy that we've held in our physical field and then the tissue of the body, so that there's space for a newness. And it just feels so good to just let it in deeper and deeper as we're tapping. Good. And then tapping on up through the abdomen and torso and rib cage. Tapping all over, and those energy fingers are going right through the organs, ribs, heart, lungs, thymus, and everything. And we just let it in, just to enjoy all that old calcified rigidity getting shattered and blasted apart, so that there's space for that lightness, that newness, that openness that we are. Our whole body is virtually replaced every 7 years. We have a whole new body every 7 years almost. And so why does our body keep recreating itself in dysfunctional ways when we have an issue? It's because the energetic field or the consciousness holds on to things. And so as we enjoy this, we can just enjoy things just getting shattered and broken up as we tap all around. Chest and heart and lungs and everything. Those energy fingers going deep within. Good. And then getting under the arms, up and down the sides. The lymph nodes just love that. And as we enjoy the lymph nodes and the sides, enjoying this, that's that gratitude state of consciousness science talks about. And it's very healing. It actually changes the molecular structure of the heart and the brain in positive ways when we enjoy the sensations of our existence. Good. And then tapping the other side. Nice full breath. Just letting our whole being just sigh and let this in. Just to enjoy it. Good. And then getting up around the collarbone and the shoulders. Exploring those little nooks and crannies. Like we might do when we were kids. We'd do things just to see what it would feel like. Because it was fun to enjoy what things felt like. And so as we tap around those little nooks and crannies around the collarbone, the shoulder, it's like each one has a different melody in this symphony of sensation and pleasure. And we just let it in. So it's very common to hear Chinese masters refer to Qigong as a return to childlikeness. Not childishness, but childlikeness. It's the opposite of childishness. Remembering how to enjoy these simple pleasures of our existence. And as we become more and more adept at that, it changes our brain and nervous system so that we're just more naturally aware of the beauty and pleasure in our beingness and in our lives and in our world. And that's that gratitude state, and it's a very healing way to be. And it just makes life so much more fun. Good. And then going over a shoulder and up and down the sagging arm and hand. Just let that arm that we're tapping just sag. It'll stay up even though you let it just let go. So this is Wu Wei, the effortless way that we're learning. And when we let that arm that we're striking sag, it just lets the tapping in deeper and deeper. And it just feels so good. Now the arm that's tapping, we let that sigh and let go as well. And we find that we can tap with virtually no effort. So we're learning Wu Wei, the effortless way. And tapping the arm and hand and from all sides and all angles and just letting it in just for the sheer pleasure of it. We're just in the spa just to enjoy. Good. And then going over the other shoulder and up and down that sagging arm and hand. Just letting it in. Just to feel the pleasure of it. Nice full breaths. We just let this happen. As we just enjoy being in the cosmic day spa. Good. And then up over the shoulders, like thick raindrops falling. And it's very soothing when we just let it happen and just let it in. And up the 2 rows of muscles in the back of the neck. And those energy fingers are going right through the spine. So this is just an extraordinary sensation when we just let it happen and just let it in. On up into the base of the skull and the back of the head. And as we sigh and let go and let the center of the brain let go, that vibration seems to come from the whole universe. It's all encompassing, rippling through everything that we are. Just letting go. Good. And then tapping lightly around the collarbone and the throat. And we just let those energy fingers just go right through, so the thyroid and the throat are just loving this. And it just feels so good. And when we enjoy the sensation of the thyroid and the throat enjoying this, that's that gratitude state. Very healing. Changes the molecular structure of the heart and the brain. And we just let it in. There's nothing better than a happy thyroid. Anybody who's ever had an unhappy one knows exactly what I'm talking about. And as we get up into the face, it's just so bracing, so effervescent. Just letting it in, letting the face just slacken open to receive every drop of this pleasure. And the jaws and slackening ever more. And those energy fingers are going right through jaws and teeth and eyes and sinuses and brain. And we just let it in. There's no limit to how much pleasure we can allow into ourselves. And as we play at these things, we start to realize that the beauty of our existence and experience isn't so much what the world puts in front of us as it is how much we let it in. And as we get up around the cheeks and the sinuses and the eyes, it's like a kaleidoscope. And now over the forehead, and those energy fingers are going right through the third eye, between the eyebrows and the forehead. And that's really the pineal gland in the center of the brain. That's what the third eye is all about. And we just let it sigh and just let it in. Shattering all that old calcified and rigidified stuff. We just enjoy it, tapping over the brow and the temples, the skull and the scalp. Good. And then with the eyes still closed, just giving ourselves some time here just to breathe and tingle. Nowhere to rush to, just breath and light and opening. Good. Good. And now we're going to go over everything that we just tapped, but this time with the relaxed hand. As the hands relax, the fingers kind of curve in, and so there's a slight cupping. And so as we start clapping around our calves and shins and knees, there's a warmer, more percussive resonance to it. And that warmer, more percussive resonance is very comforting. And we just let it in, letting it be kind of erratic. And then as we come up and down the thighs from all angles, just letting that energy field of the thighs, just let this in. Deeper and deeper. Breaking up all that old calcified and rigidified stuff that we've held. Now there's energy centers in the palms of the hand that are just pushing that energy right through the thighs and far beyond, breaking up all that old stuff. Good. And then tapping on up through the abdomen and the torso and the rib cage. Clapping. And those energy centers in the palms of the hand are just pushing that energy right through the organs and the ribs and the heart and the lungs and the thymus. And it's just breaking up all that old stuff, and it just feels so good to let it happen. Nice full breath. Good. Clapping all over, but going under the arms and up and down the sides. The lymph nodes love that. And again, us enjoying that gratitude state. Good. And now the other side. Nice. And then just giving ourselves a one-handed clap on a collarbone and shoulder. And just letting that in. Letting that hand go on autopilot, so we just become the receiver. Clapping in that area of the collarbone and shoulder, as you might do to comfort somebody. And it is comforting, and when we acknowledge that it's comforting, we can just let it in. Let it pat right into our opening heart. And receiving that comfort. And knowing that we deserve it. You know, we kind of dismiss these needs that we have to nurture ourselves and to recognize the beauty of ourselves, because when we stop and think about it, as we pat ourselves and comfort ourselves here, we're just as beautiful as anything on the planet. You know, we look at the sky and the clouds and the flowers and the trees, and we think how beautiful, and they are. And so are we. We're part of the same organic, energetic system as all of nature, all of the universe. And so we deserve this comfort, to let it into our opening heart. Receive it. Good. And now clapping the other collarbone and shoulder. Nice full breaths, just letting it happen. Letting it come in. Receiving it. Good. And then clapping over a shoulder and up and down that sagging arm and hand from all angles. And every breath letting go of being the doer, so that we're just here in the spa just to receive and enjoy all angles. Letting it be very effortless. Wu Wei. And that's emotional, mental, and physical, not just physical. Up and down that arm and hand. Good. And now going over the other shoulder and up and down that sagging arm and hand. Nice full breath. Really letting it in. All angles. Good. And then giving ourselves a one-handed clap on the back, so that we can switch arms, because we want to stay fresh. We don't want to get fatigued, while we give ourselves time to really receive this affirmation. Really receive this pat on the back. And know that it means something. And it does. And when we acknowledge that, it's like we can feel it patting right through our opening heart. Just letting it in. Good. And then up those 2 rows of muscles, back of the neck. And again, that's just an extraordinary sensation when we're really present. Up into the base of the skull, and the back of the head. And as we sigh and let go and let that pineal gland center of the brain let go, it's like it's a all-encompassing vibration through everything, everywhere. We can lose ourselves in it. Good. And then lightly around the throat and the collarbone. And the energy center in the palm of the hand, it's just pushing that energy through, so the throat and thyroid are just loving it. Nice. And as we get up into the face, it's so bracing, so effervescent. Just letting the face just slacken open to receive this limitless pleasure. And the jaws slackening ever more. And that allows the ears to continue letting go more and more. Up around the cheeks and the eyes, and now over the forehead and the brow and the temples, the skull and the scalp. Good. And then with the eyes closed, just giving ourselves some time here just to breathe and tingle.
Nowhere to rush to. Just breath and light and opening. We can continue to float in this. Even as in time, at some point we'll begin a very soft, gradual, soft focusing or whatever. But there's no rush. Just letting the waves drift us back in their own time. Enjoying the transition. So we start to tune into these rhythms of the universe. Chinese masters called it the Tao, flow of the universe. It doesn't operate on deadlines and schedules. We can become more accustomed to it, more familiar with the flows of the universe, play with these. So just enjoying the transition, so that even as we do begin to become visual at some point, we don't really fix or focus on it. But we continue to open to this field awareness, lightness. So even as the eyes begin to open, again, we don't really fix on it. Just soft focus. When the eyes soft focus, it's like you can see everything but nothing at the same. And it's the same thing with the pineal gland. The eyes unfocus. We can let the pineal gland, the center of the brain, unfocus. And then it's like we're aware of everything. We feel everything all at the same time. We're not focused on it. Helps the brain delve towards the alpha state, brainwave state, the meditative state. That's where all the magic happens. Again, I have 600 pages of book the magic of it. And I've talked to so many mind-body teachers that I know, and they just assume that they know all this magic, all this science that I've collected for 40 years. And the only thing I can say is I must have been really stupid because because when I was collecting this science, it was like my jaw was just dropping. I mean, it was just world altering. It changed the way that I do Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, and everything, to know that there's a scientific validity to all of these mind-body practices. And so, I guess all these other mind-body teachers must be like rocket scientists. I must be the stupid guy, because I could not believe the science. And I highly encourage everybody to get the book. And I'm not encouraging you to buy it. Just get your local library to carry it. And I've given it away 3 times in ebook form. So if you sign up at worldtaichiday.org, join our newsletter, whenever I give it away, I give it, Amazon only lets you give it away so many times through a given period. So whenever I have another opportunity, I'll give away the ebook again. But if you'd like to contribute to this project that we're doing to try to spread this more positive view of possibility for the planet, because that's what the new second edition of the Gospel of Science does, paints this incredibly positive view of the future of ourselves and our planet based on science that we should be hearing about on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and PBS and NPR and all that, but we're not, because it doesn't make anybody billions of dollars. So when you see this science, you'll see that the potential for our being, because I teach in hospital classes all the time, I see people get off of diabetes meds, hypertension meds, anxiety meds, depression meds, insomnia meds, all these things. But those things, you see those things on TV all the time because they make people billions of dollars. You're not going to see meditation, mind-body practices on TV. They're not going to talk about them because anybody billions of dollars. That's just how modern, mainstream corporate media. And so don't underestimate this. Like I said, get your library to get the new second edition of the Gospel of Science and then read it. It'll change your life. It changed my life. I'd been practicing mind-body practices for like 40 years before I really brought all this science together in 2022 to complete this book. Now, I wanted to introduce you to the 6 healing sounds. So let me adjust my camera here a little. So we're breathing in as the palms come up, and then we have a full breath. Then the palms turn out, and we'll do the shoo sound. And when we do it, we'll do this all with our eyes closed, but it'll sound like this. And your hands will do this. It'll be shoo. And they go out until you run out of breath. Then they come back down, and we get a breath in, and we do it again. So we'll do this several times. Okay, so go ahead and now that you know how to do it, let your eyes close. Breathing in as the palms come up. Full breath, and then shoo. And you want to let your brain and your whole field just let go. Just let that the vibration come out of us. So we're not trying to make the sound, but we're just letting it vibrate through us. And then that'll allow that vibration to vibrate through our field, and break up the old rigidified and calcified stuff, because that's what vibrational meditations do. Here we go, breathe in. And one more, just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good. And then in between every breath, we do 3 cleansing breaths. Yeah, I mean, in between every sound, we do 3 cleansing. So we're breathing in as the hands come up. And then the palms come down and they just come washing over us like big energy hands, washing everything. And they are. The big energy hands are washing through us. We don't have to visualize or work to make it. What we want to do is just enjoy being washed through. So breathing in as the palms come up. And just letting the eyes closed, just letting it wash through us. Brain fluid, spinal fluid, bone marrow, it's all just energy being washed through. And a third one. Good. Now we're going to do heart energy. This is the kurr sound, but it sounds like k because we're going to be touching our tongue on the gum line behind the top 2 front teeth. So again, it'll sound like k because we're going to have our tongue touching behind the top 2 front teeth. So we're breathing in as we scoop up this energy. It's like you're scooping up energy. And then the k sound will wash over us like a wave. And of course, we'll do all this with eyes closed, but it'll look and sound like this. Breathing in. Letting it wash over us. One more, just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good. And now the 3 cleansing breaths. Wash through. Good. And now the next healing sound is the hu sound. It's the stomach energy, or the thermostat of the body in traditional Chinese medicine. So we'll be breathing in as the palms come up, and then the left palm will turn up and the right palm will turn down, and we'll do an expansion and extension up and down as we do the hu sound. So the palms come up, breathing in, and then hu. And that down palm will go all the way down to the lap, and the upper palm will go all the way up. And we don't strain when we do this, but we do want to feel that full elongation. And then the palms will come back together, turn towards one another, and come back together as we breathe in. And then the other palm will go up and the other palm will go down. So eyes closed if they're not already. And one more, just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good, and the 3 cleansing breaths. So each sound stirs things up, and then the 3 cleansing breaths cleanse all that away. As we do these things over and over again, we're not doing the same thing. The cleansing that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. We're changed by these things. So even though you may be doing the same exercise 5 years from now, you won't be the same person. It'll be a completely different experience. And it is every time that you do it. Everything is different every time you do it. That's the mathematical reality. It's impossible to do the same thing twice. So when we think that, things are the same, it's a lack of imagination and it's a mental prison. And Einstein said that we should be in a constant state of amazement. Otherwise, it's like we're just sleepwalking through our lives. Good. Okay. So now the next healing sound is the lung energy. So we'll be breathing in as the palms come up, and then the palms will push away, and it'll look like a push-up, but of course it's very relaxed. It's not effortful push-up. And the sound sounds like a mosquito. It's this sound, zzz, like that. And now when you do that push-up and make that zzz sound, you want to go all the way out until the fingers are extended out, because the lung meridian goes all the way out through the fingers. Okay, so here we go, breathing in. And just letting it vibrate through us. So, of course, you can feel it vibrating, these things vibrating through your palate, through your mouth, through your throat, and up even into your head. But really, you can feel it becomes universal. It's like a field experience when we just let go. And so that's all we try to do when we do things, just to let go and let it come through us without trying to make more just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good. And then the 3 cleansing breaths. Good. And then the next healing sound is the kidney and adrenal energy. And so we'll need to lean up a little bit or else scoot up in our chair a little bit because we need to be able to get the back of the hands, the knuckles on the lower back. We want to just kind of massage them around in circles in the kidney and adrenal area, the lower back area. As we just breathe and let go. So we want to have our eyes closed, just really enjoying this. And we're going to do it a lot more right now than we will on the other ones. The other ones, it'll be more cursory, passing, quick massage. And now we're breathing in as we slide the hands up our back. And then when we're full of breath, the hands are going to go over a big ball. And we do the chui sound. Chui. And they get to our lap when we run out of breath. And again, a quick massage back there. Breathing in as they come up the back. And one more, just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good, and then the 3 cleansing breaths. We just let it happen. You don't try to visualize these big hands. You just know that it's happening. Then you just enjoy being washed through by them. Good. And now the 6th healing sound is the she sound. Now the she sound, it starts off like the first one where the palms are coming up as we breathe in. But instead of going, when the palms up, instead of going off the eyebrows, they go straight up, all the way up until we're fully elongated. And we'll be making the she sound. Now when you make the she sound, it makes this little kind of silly pursed lip smile. I always think of Steve Martin when I say she, like that. And there's an aspect to that. In traditional Chinese medicine and in Qigong, we talk about smiling to your internal organs. And so as we do this little pursed lip smile, as the hands are going to go up, we'll have that consciousness of kind of gratitude, just enjoying the sensation because our organs are going to be vibrated by making the she sound. And so we just want to enjoy that and have that, kind of positive gratitude consciousness, enjoying what all of our organs do. Now, when I first learned this, this smiling to your internal organs, when I first learned this smiling to your internal organs, I have to confess, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was kind of Pollyannish. But as I've become aware of the science, I know that this was a high science. The Chinese masters were really onto something hundreds of thousands of years ago. And, and so we know that our cells, we have 50 trillion cells and they're conscious. They're living things are conscious. And so, if you've ever had the displeasure of working at a company where the only time they ever noticed you was when you did something bad, when you screwed up, what happened when I worked at places like that is I got into a mode where I tried to do as little as possible, because the less you do, the less you screw up. So the less you screw up, that's better. But if you've ever had the pleasure working at a company where they noticed your genius or your creativity or whatever your skill that you bring to the job is, if you've ever had that beautiful experience, you shine. It's like you want to perform, you want to produce, because you feed on that. So these 50 trillion cells of the body, their consciousness is just like our consciousness. It responds to appreciation. And like I said, the gratitude state, science shows that it actually physically changes the molecular structure of the heart and the brain in positive ways. If it can change things in a gross physical way that can be measured by our relatively crude science at the time in history, that's a huge thing. That means that huge things are happening that we aren't able to measure. We're able to measure things in gross physical terms like that. So here we go. So we'll do the she sound, smiling to the internal organs. And this is also an integrative energy. So everything that we did before, it integrates all that energy. Here we go. Breathing in. Then you get a breath in and a breath out on the way down. When you get to the lap, you're ready to breathe in again. And one more, just for the sheer pleasure of it. Good. And then the 3 cleansing breaths. Good. And just floating in that lightness. Good. And now to complete the vibrational meditations, we're going to move into a yoga vibrational meditation. So the 6 healing sounds was a Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine Qigong experience. We're going to be doing the classic Om sound. So this comes from yoga, and the word yoga means union. And the Tai Chi symbol, the Yin Yang symbol, that's what that means as well. So the Tai Chi symbol, it has multi-dimensional meanings, but it's really beautiful when you look into it, because one of the aspects of it is that the Tai Chi was the universe before the Big Bang. It was when everything was one union, like yoga talks about union, mind-body union, union of self and the universe, connective realities that are deeper. And so, in a sense, the Tai Chi and yoga mean the same thing. They're the origin of things before they became separate things. Because once the Big Bang happened, that's when positive and negative polarities were born, and that's what creates the physical universe, the positive and negative polarities. That's what yin yang is. Yin yang is the positive and negative polarities of the planet. And so it's just really beautiful when you look into these things. Now, one very interesting thing is that when we do the Om sound, the Om sound that issues forth through us is 432 hertz. Now, 432 hertz is the background vibration of the universe. That can be measured scientifically. So how did these people know this thousands of years? You see, these were high scientists. The people that created Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, they were actually higher scientists than science is today. And science is just in infancy of beginning to comprehend that. And so that's why I collected all this mind-blowing science in the new second edition of the Gospel of Science that I really hope everybody not will buy, but will check out from the library or get it when I give it away for free at World Tai Chi Day or whatever. But please, please read this book. It's going to blow your mind. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that when we go into alpha state, when we go into that state where the mind just kind of drifts or slips into neutral, that's around 8 hertz. Now, 7.83 hertz is the background vibration of the planet Earth. So, so when we go into meditative states, that alpha state, deep alpha state, it starts to get into alpha theta, which is the first sleep state. So you're not asleep, but you're like right at the edge of it. That's a really deep meditative state, and that's the vibratory rate of the planet Earth. When I first started learning how to do these things, this is like 45 years ago, I thought that when we meditated, I thought that we were trying to go somewhere else, to get away. But as you start to practice these things, you feel like you feel that you realize that it is just so incredibly natural. And that's why it's so natural for children to be doing this. And if you go to globaltransformationproject.org, you can sign the petition and become part of a movement for a United Nations resolution advocating mind-body practices as a core part of public education worldwide. Wouldn't be mandatory for any country, any school, when we teach in public schools or, corporations or, anywhere where there's a captive audience, we always insist that there's an opt-out, study hall or something else they can do. And so it would always be voluntary because you can't you can't force somebody to do body. We have to do it because we want to do it. But having said that, anytime that I've taught in public schools, it's been very rare that any student opted out. And when they come back into the class after we're done, they're sorry that they did because the other students are, wow, I did, it's just so amazing to them to get in touch with that natural thing. I'm talking about like high school students. But with younger students, it's just so natural. It's so easy to teach them mind body. And so you're really, if we teach kids mind body around the planet, we're not going to be teaching them how to go into alpha state. They do that naturally. What we're going to be teaching them is tools so that they don't get that magical state squeezed out of them. And it's going to save the planet trillions of dollars, saved health and social costs. And if you don't believe me, don't just scoff. Read the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, and you'll see that everything that I'm saying is absolutely true. The solutions to our modern challenges are hanging like a ripe fruit, and many of them, multitudinous problems and challenges that we're facing, would be solved by encouraging educators around the planet to use science in public education. And that's the motto of the Global Transformation Project, time to use science in public education. It's a no-brainer. This isn't a big stretch. And the thing is I'm the founder of World Tai Chi Day, World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. And over these 23 years of organizing this, what I realized, and I didn't know this when we first started, but what I realized is that there are mind-body teachers in every city, in every country on the planet. Everything has been set up. What happened over the last 40 years is, a little more than 40 years. But one of the things that happened is the Beatles went to India to study with the Maharishi. Now, the Beatles, I get into this in the book, the Beatles were the most beloved band in the history of humanity. Nobody had captured the world's attention like the Beatles did. So while me and my sisters were listening to the Beatles albums in a tiny, small farming town in western Kansas, my wife, Angela Wong, was listening to Beatles albums with her brother in metropolitan Hong Kong on the other side of the planet. And this was a global phenomenon. And so when the Beatles went to India to study meditation with the Maharishi, there were people like me, like that little boy in Kansas, that were going, wow, what's meditation? and it played a part. And I ended up, teaching meditation most of my life. And so it had a huge impact on the planet. It had a huge impact on the planet. And it brought the Maharishi to a level of notability that would have never happened if they hadn't done that. And so then the Maharishi spread the TM Foundation all over the planet. And when I first found out about TM, I was upset because they charged a couple of $1,000s, I think, to learn it. But I totally see why they did that. The Maharishi and the foundation, they used that money well. They did amazing they funded amazing scientific research on this. And I'm so glad that they did, because if they hadn't, a lot of this research would have never been done. I don't know if you're aware, but like in the United States, the National Institute of Health, and that's where most research funding comes from, less than 0.5% of that research funding goes to complementary and alternative medicine. So that means that aromatherapy, massage therapy, yoga, acupuncture, Tai Chi, Qigong, all these different things, they all have to fight over less than 0.5%. So let me tell you why that's insane. During the pandemic, the research showed that the frontline healthcare workers who had high T cell counts were much less likely to contract COVID. And if they did get it, it was a much lighter version of COVID than their coworkers who had lower T cell count. Okay. So now that you know that amazing fact, there was a UCLA study, and they found that the Tai Chi group had 50%, nearly 50% more T cells than the control group did from practicing Tai Chi. And there was a European study that showed that their Tai Chi group had 100% more T. This is amazing. And what is even more amazing in a disturbing way is that money didn't start pouring towards mind, body, and Tai Chi. These things. When you find out that you can dramatically increase people's T cell counts, and it will keep them from getting diseases, or from getting the diseases severely if they do, this changes the whole global immunity. Everybody on the planet should be there should be research money flowing to this. So the TM Foundation did some amazing research on meditation. Now, there has been NIH funding for mind body, but like I said, less than 0.5%, and it just doesn't make any sense. So the TM Foundation, so the Beatles, the Maharishi, they spread meditation all over the planet, and little boys like me in Kansas were watching all this, and I eventually started teaching meditation and Tai Chi, and I eventually founded World Tai Chi Day. And so then World Tai Chi Day spread all over the planet, and I found out about a Princeton University-born engineering project called the Global Consciousness Project. Dr. Roger Nelson, who is the director of research at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab for 20 years, he founded the Global Consciousness Project, and it came out of early research at Princeton. And now this is going to blow your mind, but what they found, and we actually interviewed Dr. Roger Nelson. We do a monthly podcast. If you go to globaltransformationproject.org, you can watch our podcast with some of the leading scientists on the planet. And Dr. Nelson was on, and we talked about this. The way that the research started at Princeton was that they discovered that human consciousness could affect physical reality. And they had something that was kind of like a pachinko machine, where a ball would drop down, but it can only go to one side or the other. And the pachinko, it's a sort of a pachinko machine. It was engineered so that so that it would have a 50-50, so that roughly the balls would go half one side and half the other. So it wasn't rigged to go one side or the other. And then that way they had a baseline. And then they would have people think of those balls going to one side or the other. and they would go to the one side that they were thinking of more than they would go to the other side. Now, it wasn't like the X-Men where they could control the reality and make it happen every time, but it was so all of their research put together, it was so significant statistically that one of the researchers who was also on our program, another researcher, he said that for it to be pure chance that the people weren't actually making the balls do that, you would have to count. You would have to spend 1,000 years counting to reach the number of likelihood that it was a fluke. So what that means is that they were physically moving things with their minds. They didn't have master control where they could make it happen every time, but the mathematics was too overwhelming. And so we know that people's consciousness could change it. And then they found out that people's consciousness could change their computers. So they found that people could make the computer make more ones or more O's, because computers are binary systems. And then they started creating, they call them random event generators. And it's kind of like an electronic coin flipper that flips coin 200 times per second. And so the baseline of it is, it's going to be 50-50 if you look at it long enough. If that wasn't the case, there would be no lights on in Las Vegas. There'd be no casinos on the planet. They have to have that statistical probability. But what they found was that people in their lab could change that random event generator. It could make it be more heads or ones or more tails or zeros. And so then they got curious and they started taking it to public settings. And they took it to like a cathedral mass, symphony, opera, and then they also took it to a shopping mall. And what they found was that when they took it to places where people were in coherent consciousness, like at a cathedral mass or opera or symphony, it would take their random event generators off track, off of the normal, 50-50 line that they would normally be on. But when they took it to the shopping mall, it didn't have any effect at all because everybody was all, thinking about different things. And so then they put these things all over the planet. And the first thing that they noticed after they did that was during Princess Diana's funeral, the whole world kind of went into a coherent consciousness of honor and love. Because she was a very beautiful person. I wasn't really into royalty or anything like that myself, but I grew to love her because she was a real humanity. And so that sent their computers off during Princess Diana's funeral. And so then they started looking at many other global happenings, and they decided to start looking at happenings that were orchestrated. It was in 2007, I contacted them because that's when World Tai Chi Day that I organized and founded had actually really started to take off. And so I told the data researchers at the Global Consciousness Project of what we were doing, and I asked them if they could look at it and see whether we'd had any impact on global consciousness. And they said, yeah, we could look at that. But then they never got back to me. And so when they never got back to me, I just assumed that we hadn't had any effect. But when I was completing the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, I contacted them again because I knew that since we started World Tai Chi Day, there's an International Day of Yoga, there's International Peace Meditations, and we kind of started all that with World Tai Chi Day, but now it's really common. And so I wanted to see if any of these things had affected global consciousness. And this time they got back to me very quickly, and the data analyst said, yeah, we've studied like about 100 of these. And right at the top of the list was World Tai Chi Day. And so we had actually measurably increased coherence in global consciousness. And this is a huge deal because, and so did International Day of Yoga and
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't see this picture, which was a prototype for what became the Global Consciousness Project. I asked people to take data, send it to me, put it all together and made the red trace that you can see. It was unlikely with odds of 1 in 100 or so. And that encouraged us to go ahead. and to create a network, which ultimately had about 150 or more people hosting one of the devices, these random number generators, in various places around the world, signified by the little red spots. The most we ever had running about at one time were about 75, but a lot of people participated over the years. Now, you've seen this picture already. It's a almost typical kind of result. This is what we call a cumulative deviation plot. It just shows the history of the departures from expectation. We predict that it'll go up. And starting at about 9 or so in London, it really began going up gangbusters, big time. And this sort of confirmation of the hypothesis that we set, which is that when really large numbers of people come together, we'll see some kind of correlated activity in the Global Consciousness Project data. And about 70% of the time, not 50%, as you would expect by chance, but 70% of the time, we got exactly what we were predicting. Now, that may not sound like very much, but in fact, it turns out to be a lot if you compare it with what's expected over a long period of time. So what I should say is that we have a sort of small effect, but if we persist in doing the experiment again and again, small effects add up. We know that from all kinds of aphorisms. Keep at it, be patient, do your work. Eventually, we find an accumulation of experimental outcomes that produces a line like the red one in this picture. You can compare that with a cloud of gray simulations, or you might say controlled data. They're completely different universes. So in other words, we have a real effect. Why does it happen? What does it really mean? We've been in recent times doing a fair amount of completely independent analysis, partly to try to distinguish between the idea that all this is just an experimenter effect. If we choose the right events, or if we choose the right time to start, we'll get these results even though there's nothing happening. That's to me a remarkably unlikely prospect as an explanation. I think it's more like that we have, as Roland was talking about, fields of consciousness. Actually, I'm thinking even more esoteric than electromagnetic fields, something like information fields, the kind of thing that David Bohm used to explain what happens in physics.
And so did World Peace Meditation Day, and so did many of these days. And so, and again, the chances of this being chance, Dr. Nelson said when you put their research together, the odds of it being chance would be 1 in 3 trillion. So we know that these things are happening. And but what's so significant and so exciting about this is that a lot of the money that the TM Foundation, the Maharishi's Meditation Foundation, Research Foundation, put into research was to study that if you bring 1% of high-level meditators into a city, that it will dramatically reduce violent crime rates for that whole city. So not just the meditators, for the whole city. And one of their biggest studies was in 1993 in Washington, D.C., and so they brought in 1% of meditators during the city, and they were coordinating with the Washington, D.C. Police Department. And the police chief was kind of laughing it off because they said that they were going to bring the violent crime rates down 20% in August. That's the high crime rate. And the Washington, D.C. Chief of police, he kind of smirked and he said, yeah, they'll do that if we have a blizzard in August. But, the data department, worked with them. And some universities were involved as well. And so they brought in high-level meditators to equal 1% of the city's population. And not only did they bring the violent crime rate down 20%, they brought it down more than that. I can't remember the exact figure, but you can go to New Second Edition of Gospel Science and see the figure, and you can see the cited research, because I cited everything. I knew people weren't going to believe me if I didn't meticulously cite this. So it's just like a college textbook. Everything is completely cited. And I have live links at globaltransformationproject.org, so that if you get the book, you can go right to the science. And so there was another study that they did that involved 48 cities. And in all 48 of these cities, when they brought in 1% of population of high-level meditators, they lowered the crime rates in all those 48 cities. And not only did they do that, but benefits remained for up to 5 years after that. And as compared to the control cities, have that effect. So this is mind-blowing, world-altering stuff. And so all this is leading up to us doing the sound. Because when we do the Om sound, two things happen. One is that our brain will start to go into alpha state, that 7.838 hertz area. And that is when we're vibrating, harmonizing with the background vibratory rate of the planet Earth coming home. But when we do the Om sound, that's 432 hertz. And that's the background vibration of the entire universe. Now, if this isn't blowing your mind, you need to pinch yourself and see if you're awake, because this should be blowing your mind. Alrighty, so here we go. The comfortable chair, and I like to hold my hands like this when I do the Om sound. I kind of make a circle and put one hand inside the other hand, just let it relax there. And so you just want to let that, again, you full breath in, and you just want to let full breath in, and you just want to let that Om sound just vibrate through your whole field and out through the universe, through your brain and skull and everything. And then whenever you run out of air, you just take a breath and get another one. And don't try to match me. We don't try to go do it the same. It can kind of take on like a musical round, where when you're breathing, I'm oming, I'm breathing. Here we go. Good. Another thing I wanted to mention is don't feel self-conscious about your Om. As you practice this, your body's going to relax more and more around it, and your Om is going to get more and more resonant. But don't even think in those terms. You just want to go into that heart-centered consciousness where you're just feeling and enjoying. Because when we're self-conscious about our Om, that's ego. That's ego. That means that we're this separate thing that can screw up or whatever. But when we just become an organic part of the beautiful universe and the beauty of our experience and sensation and vibration, there is no I or me. When we let that pineal gland, the center of the brain, let go and just let it vibrate with everything else, there is no I and me. We just become the vibration. And so this is just such a good habit for life, to just let go of that ego, because it doesn't do anything but causes stress and problems. And we're just so beautiful, as part of the organic universe. We don't have to worry about that individual I and me being this or that. Go. Doing it for fun. All this stuff, we do it for fun. It's safe to just drift and get lost in it. Or the brain just good. And we can continue to float in this tingly, vibrating lightness, letting the head and the heart let go of their rush, let go of their analysis. They can just drift, tingly effervescence. Just melt into the fabric of the ocean of the universe, connected to everything. Good. And now we're going to do some moving Qigong. And so I'm going to move you. So prepare to be moved.
So let me give you a couple of physical references. One is the vertical axis. The vertical axis is a rod of energy that runs from 12.5 feet above us right down through our core, 12.5 feet down into the earth, rooting us into the earth. As you get used to the vertical axis, it'll really help you with your postural alignment and your balance. Our Dantian is right here in our upper pelvis. That's the center of gravity. The vertical axis and the Dantian are always aligned. Our Dantian is right here in our upper pelvis. That's our alignment and our center of gravity. The vertical axis and the Dantian are always aligned. In a few moments, we'll be doing something like this, where our Dantian or vertical axis are always aligned, sinking our Dantian back and forth. But we won't lean into it. We won't lean into the hips or anything. Everything will stay stacked up above the Dantian. That will make your balance a lot easier. Also, it takes a lot of stress off your body to find that balance. The Dantian is right here where all the movements are going to come from. We're going to do a hip rotation, kind of like a hula hoop movement. And we'll try to do as much of this as we can with our eyes closed. If you need to peek, go ahead and peek, but you'll be able to do it with your eyes closed fairly quickly. Now, your balance can be challenging when you start, but your balance is going to get way better. There's nothing that will improve your balance like Tai Chi. So when we start these hip rotations, you may see me kind of going all over the place, but when you first start, if you keep your head above your feet in your vertical axis, it'll make your balance a lot easier. But I've been doing this so long, and I'm so comfortable with my proprioception. I like to get all wild and out of control, so I may be going around, but that's okay. You'll figure it out. The key to all this stuff is doing it for the pleasure. Doing it perfectly is not as important as doing it for the pleasure. That's what the science shows. You don't want to strive for pleasure. Just enjoy it. You're going to get better and better at this as you do it. Perfect will get better and better. You don't have to figure it all out. So with the eyes closed, tip of the tongue touching, feel that full breath in like a big wave. And then on that sighing exhale, it's like a big wave washing down through our body. And the knees are slightly unhinged. In Tai Chi and Qigong, we never have the knees locked and straight. Always slightly bent, but not bent so much that it's discomforting. Okay, so the Dantian here in the upper pelvis, about 4 inches below the belly button. It's going to take off in these counterclockwise hip rotations. We're just breathing and letting go and enjoying the ride. Enjoying 50 trillion cells massaging one another through this silken field of liquid lightness. All those deep skeletal muscles are just going liquid, being massaged by the bones moving underneath them. All those muscles up through the back and between the shoulder blades and up through the neck and even into the base of the skull. Loosened. Just breathe and let go. We're just here to enjoy being massaged by all this. Good, and now going the other direction. Good. And enjoying how different that is. It feels a little stilted at first when you change directions. A little chaotic, but as we breathe and relax into it, every breath, just letting go, everything, everywhere. All those muscles up through the back and between the shoulder blades. Up through the neck and even up into the cranium, things getting loosened and opened. Even the internal organs are getting more loose and more liquid. The heart and the lungs, as they sigh and let go of themselves. Good. And then with the feet about shoulder width apart, and the knees are unhinged, counterclockwise, and every breath, the shoulders and everything, letting go. All those muscles around the rib cage, the ribs just get looser and more open. The muscles inside the rib cage are letting go. And the body and the spine getting that nice loosening swirl as we just let go around it. And not just the physical spine, but that larger energy spine. Just letting that energy swirl go up through our back and our heart and our shoulders and our throat and our brain as we just surrender to that uplifting swirl just for the pleasure of it. You see, the universe is playful when we just let go and enjoy surrendering to that uplifting swirl. That's the nature of the universe, playful, and now going the other direction. Whole other planes and dimensions of sensation opening for us to free fall into. Nice. Just breathing nice full breaths, letting go, letting it take us. Yeah, liquefying. Good. And now with the feet together, rolling out the knees and ankles, just gentle knee rotations, but every breath letting the shoulders relax down and away from the neck. Just seeing how effortlessly we can let this swirling rotation flow up out of the earth through our liquefying body right up into the heavens as we just surrender to that heavenly journey, enjoying what it does to us on its heavenly journey. Nice. Good. Now the other direction. Now again, you may see me going all over the place because I'm so used to this, but if you keep your head above your feet, it'll make your balance a lot easier. And then you can just let go even deeper. Let that massaging just go all the way through us, that liquefying swirl that we just surrendered to, like the cylinder men out in front of Mattress Warehouse with the fans blowing through them. Oh yeah. Good. Now interlacing the fingers and allowing ourselves to be elongated. And as that gentle traction pulls us up towards the heavens and we breathe and let go, we can actually feel the vertebrae relaxing up and away from one another. Not a making, but a letting. And the shoulder blades sliding farther down the back as they let go. Nice full breath in. And on that sighing exhale, we'll let ourselves elongate off to either side. Really soaking into the pleasure of those muscles gently stretching across the back and between the shoulder blades and through the neck. Really our whole being getting a nice elongation. And as the hips and knees and ankles start to come unhinged, we become a supple reed that can just bend in the wind. Just for the sheer pleasure of it. Yes. Nice full breath, sighing into those elongations. We're becoming more liquefied. We're becoming more lithe, more flexible. We're growing and expanding, healing the telomeres of our DNA, actually becoming younger. Some of the aspects of aging can actually reverse as we heal those frayed telomeres of our tightened DNA, letting it open. Breathe. Become this liquid flow. Just for the pleasure of it. Just letting go of words, just soaking into the sensation, that heart-centered consciousness. Nice. Good. Now going into these upper body rotations, breathing into them, exhaling as we go around back, so we can really soak into the pleasure of that tension grit in the lower neck and upper shoulders as that gets ground up and opened up. It's just exquisite when we just really are present, really soak into it. Yes. Good. Now the other direction. Just really soaking into that in the shoulders and the back of the neck. Good. Nice full breath in. Exhale as we're elongated out and over. Knees bend more, rear sticks out more. That takes pressure off the back. And then we can just soak into the gravity's cleansing embrace, letting the earth give us a nice big hug. As we breathe and let go deeper and deeper, we can let go ever more. We remember this beautiful relationship that we have with the planet Earth. Letting the heart just sag in the chest, unloading those tight, heavy heart loads so we don't even know we're squeezing until we start to let them go. The very heart of the heart letting go. We become open-hearted, letting the brain just sag in the skull, unloading all those tight, heavy thoughts that we've been squeezing onto. Enjoying how the scalp relaxes off the top of the skull as it's permeated by that tingly lightness pouring down through it. Nice. If you feel any stress, you can just let go. Breathing in as we slowly come up. The hands elongate up. And on that sighing exhale, as the hands slowly descend to the sides, we can feel the whole field letting go through our whole being and opening even down into the earth. And with the eyes still closed, just savoring this tingly lightness of being bubbling through everything that we are. It's very subtle, but it's really beautiful. Like some kind of sensory aurora borealis just for us to behold. Beautiful. Present. Breathing. Feeling. Opening. Good. And now with the feet about shoulder width apart, as we sink down in the horse stance, the knees unhinge, and we can feel that relief in the lower back. We lose some of that curve, and we let that vertical axis elongate through us, and the dantian and the vertical axis begin to flow us back and forth from one leg to the other. Every breath, just letting the shoulders and everything let go as we sink. So filling and emptying is the core of Tai Chi. So the leg we're flowing over is filling, the leg we move away from is emptying. And we let those hip muscles sigh as we sink under the vertical axis, flowing down through our body and foot into the earth. And as those hip muscles let go, the pelvis starts to take on this figure eight motion. And we can just surrender to this. And it sets off this swirling infinity symbol energy that just washes through us on every level of our existence, mentally, emotionally, physically. And all the tight and sharp and jagged and tangled edges that we've held onto are starting to sigh and surrender into this liquid flow. And we just let it take us, loosen us and open us. Surrender to it. Let the mind and the heart know that it is safe to just let go. Like Walt Whitman said, everything is on its way to someplace else. I can't tell you where it is. I can only tell you that it's somewhere good. And it's safe to let go and get lost in this swirling flow of liquefaction. The Tao Te Ching says the best of humans is like water, liquid and adaptable, nurturing to all things. Nice full breaths. Letting go. Letting it take us. Open us. Surrender. And the more we let go, the more we can let go. Good. And now with feet still shoulder width apart, just letting the dantian and the vertical axis flow us back and forth. Enjoying that gentle smack of the hands wherever they land, like soft explosions of sensation rippling through the field that we are. As the mind and the heart unhinge from analytical thought or even word thought, as we just get lost in this kaleidoscopic river of sensation. Every breath, just letting ourselves be liquefied. And we start to let go of that constricted sense of self. Feeling ourselves become what we really are, which is more open, larger, more loose, more free, unbound. Just letting it take us. Getting lost in the kaleidoscopic waves of light and shadow pattern and sounds and vibrations. The silken feeling of the air moving through our fingers and over our skin as we turn through space. Flowing liquidity. Nice full breaths. Good. And now with the feet still shoulder width apart, just letting everything go. The knees give, and then the dantian's bouncing, and the upper pelvis, and then everything can let go. 50 trillion cells just surrendering to this liquefaction. All those deep skeletal muscles just sighing, going liquid on the bones, massaging them from underneath, as even the bones and the bone marrow are being shaken out on that subatomic energy level, like dusty sheets in the wind, shaking out all that static tension they've held onto. And just like every other part of our being and field, the bone energy can breathe and discharge ever deeper layers of that static. We don't know how it happens or where it goes, but we can sure enjoy the relief of it. And the rib cage and the shoulder blades, as they sigh, those ribs just get looser, more open. The muscles inside the rib cage can sigh. Just let go. Don't try to shake. Just let the body just go liquid. And the cranium and the cranial muscles are sighing, jiggling a bit easier on the skull as they do. There's more space for that lightness. And the facial muscles and facial bones and the sinuses beneath and behind them, sighing and sloshing. The ears and inner ears, those tiny bones and muscles deep in the sides of the head, sighing and sloshing. And the hinges of the jaws slackening ever more as they do. And the brain's getting a nice jiggle up there as it, and on that next sighing exhale as the brain itself sighs, enjoying the give as it just goes more and more liquid, just sloshing around up there. And the pineal gland in the center of the brain, letting that area sigh and slosh. And that's that transcendent point of consciousness where we let go of control. The pineal gland center of the brain, when that sighs and lets go, we just become the waves of pleasure and loosening. There is nothing else. It fills the universe. And the old brainstem in the back, sighing and sloshing, and the spine and spinal fluid and all the miles and miles of nerves just being shaken out and dusted off as they breathe and discharge throughout our being and field, as well as on up through the solar plexus. And as that nerve bundle in the upper abdomen just sighs and sloshes, we start to let go of a lot of that fear stress that we unconsciously collect there in that nerve bundle in the upper abdomen. We start to become more open and more vulnerable, and it allows space for that lightness to just vibrate and slosh through the abdomen, pelvic bowl and abdomen, and the pelvis. And as we let that go and we become open and vulnerable, we realize not only is that safe, but it's an incredible relief to just let all that go and to be open and vulnerable. And it allows all of those organs to slosh all the way up through the heart and the lungs. As the heart and the lungs sigh and let go of themselves, we can feel them being gently pummeled inside us, getting a nice massage. And as they breathe and let go, they can just let go deeper and deeper. And the aorta sighing and sloshing. And the arteries and capillaries and veins and even the blood is being shaken out and dusted off. And it too can breathe and discharge the static that it's held onto. Just letting everything sigh, just to surrender into the pleasure of it. That pineal gland lets go. One last series of shakes here. We just become this liquid, out of control, sloshing wave of pleasure. To just surrender into it every breath, letting go ever deeper, just letting go. That pineal gland lets go, and all there is just the pleasure. It fills the universe. One last series of shakes here, seeing just how absolutely liquid we can become. Good. Sighing, breathing, letting go. Yes. All we are is the pleasure, the loosening, the opening, the surrender. Just letting it go, everything. The more we let go, the more we can let go. Just let it take us like a rag doll, just rock and rolling us. Just letting those waves take us, open us. Mind, heart, body, field, sighing, sloshing, liquefying. Breath and light and swirling sensation. One last series of shakes here, seeing just how absolutely liquid we can become. And there's no end to this. The more we let go, the more we can let go. It just never ends. And this last liquefying, breathing. And another big breath in, and on that sighing exhale, eyes closed but not moving, just feeling that awakening, that tingly lightness bubbling through everything that we are. We lose that false definition of skin that we were sold, that we stop at the skin. And we remember what we are, beings of light, limitless and unfolding radiance, letting go, opening. That tingly effervescence bubbling through everything that we are. That incredible lightness of being. Good. Now with feet about shoulder width apart, we're going to take this right into our Tai Chi form. This is a very short form. It's very simple. There's a ball of energy about 3 foot across. And you can feel it. Pretend you're a mime in a park trying to convince people there's a big ball of energy. And you can feel your hands sliding from under it over the top, down the backside. So we're breathing in as we come up over the ball. And then exhale as we come down the back of the ball. And they end up in front of our chest as if we're going to push somebody. Good. Breathing in as we come up. Let everything go. Let the shoulders relax as we come down the back of the ball, exhaling. Yes, just letting that vertical axis flow down through our open body, right through our feet, sheathing down into the earth. So we're breathing in and letting the hips relax. We're breathing in as the palms circle up, sinking over into the right leg, dropping the left heel in, sinking back into the left leg. Big hug. Strike palm as that right heel touches out in front. Left hand and striking, right hand horizontal. Reach up and grasp the bird's tail. Stroke that tail as we sink back. Rolling off that front heel, bring it back with the hands, and the hands just swing right up in front of the face and loosens the body. Turn to the corner, place the heel. Breathe, exhale as we sink and root, and then feel the expansion as the green dragon rises from the water. The hands go over its big head, under its jowls, coming back down the neck. Feet together, fists by the sides, sinking. Good. Big breath in as we grasp the bird's tail over this side. One hand on top, one hand underneath. Toe catacorner behind, stroking that tail, rolling off the heel, bringing the foot back, and the hands just swing up, loosening the back and shoulders. Place that heel. Feel that rooting and sinking, and then the expansion as the green dragon rises, expanding us mentally, emotionally, physically. Don't come up off that back heel. Then you lose all your power. You want to keep that down, and then come over the green dragon's head, back down its neck. Feet together. Feel that sinking through the body as you exhale. Big breath in as we gather up all this energy, and then just letting it wash over us like a big cleansing wave right down into the purifying earth. Exhale. Good. Breath in as we come back to the beginning. On that sighing exhale, feel the whole body let go. Hips, everything. Breathing in as we circle up, drop the heel in, sink back, big hug, strike palm, sinking as we exhale. Letting everything go, everything's very relaxed. Grasp the bird's tail, sinking back, bringing the foot back, let the back and shoulders get loose, breathing. Exhale as we root and then expand mentally, physically, emotionally. Good. Exhale as we sink. Big breath in, exhale. Very loose and liquid. The goal of Tai Chi and Qigong is effortless motion. Feel that rooting and sinking into the earth, but then the expansion and the unfolding. That back heel stays flat, and then sinking as we exhale. Big breath in as we gather up all that energy. Feeling it wash through us, cleanse us right down into the earth. It leaves a wake of lightness. Good. Breath in as we come back. Exhale. Feel the sinking. Feel everything. Breathing. Exhale. Big breath in. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. Breath in as we expand. Exhale as we sink. Breathe in. Exhale as we root and expand. Breath in. Exhale as we sink. Big breath in, gathering up all that energy, cleansing brain fluid, spinal fluid, bone marrow, right down into the earth. It's all just energy. Good. And it leaves this wake of lightness behind that we can move in as we go through our day, letting the head and the heart just continue to let go, to open to that lightness, that openness.